has a medical, so that's okay. We're going to excuse him. But I think we have somebody else coming in, attending, who is assigned for his as the lead, and so that person will be attending.
Okay. We hope everybody has their agenda in hand or on their computer.
Okay, we would like to open it up, and I'm going to introduce Niana Leonard, who has graciously agreed to do the morning prayer for us. So if you want to unmute yourself, Diana, you can go ahead and start. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you. I'd just like to give praise to our Lord. Thank you, Lord Jesus Christ, for bringing us all together again here. I just ask that you just be with us throughout the day and help guide us through what we need to do for today as we work and for our clients, Lord Heavenly Father God. It's for them that we do all of what we do. And Lord Heavenly Father God, I just ask that you just watch over our family members, our close ones that are close to us, Lord Heavenly Father God. If they're traveling, Lord Heavenly Father God, let them have a safe journey. And Lord Heavenly Father God, I just give you all praise and glory. And Lord, I just ask that you just continue to bless us and continue to watch over the state of Arizona and our leaders, Lord Heavenly Father God, to help us to be able to do what we need to do for our clients. It's mainly for them, Lord Heavenly Father God. I ask this of you, and I ask that you just watch over those that are in the hospital, Lord. And Lord Heavenly Father God, this virus that is going around, I ask that you just take care of it and let us be able to do what we need to do to stay safe, Lord. I ask this of you in your holy name. And just continue to watch over us. Let us complete this meeting, and let us be able to participate in the and be able to communicate well, Lord Heavenly Father God. In the name of Jesus Christ, I just pray with all your glory, Lord Heavenly Father God. Thank you, Jesus. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Diana.
You're welcome.
Okay, you can mute yourself. Okay, I'll turn it over to Rachel.
Let me see. I'm trying to take myself to get my camera on. Okay. You see where I'm at? That's the beauty of working from home. It makes you can imagine yourself to be somewhere else when you're in a meeting. I know we have different backgrounds. It's really awesome. We'll be talking about some of the technologies and stuff towards the end of my presentation. But for now, I just wanted to go over some of the things that we're going to go through today, and some of the topics that who's going to actually be covering the topics as we go along. We'll have Q&As at the end. So hold off on your questions as my team goes through the presentation. Just jot down things that you need, or that you have questions on that you want to ask about. Please ask questions. And this is a safe environment. Just want to let everyone know that we don't know everything. And I really, I always say that to my team internally and also externally. We don't assume that you guys should know the ins and outs of everything, because there's always different complex issues that come up with different cases. Not every case is the same. And also internally, we also know that there are barriers that you guys have in the tribal community. Those are some things that I really like to talk about during these quarterly meetings, because it allows us to relate that information to our leadership internally here at ALTCS. So we'll be covering quite a bit of stuff today. We always start with the policy update and during this period now for the next 7 months, we'll be talking about the IGA updates at the quarterly meetings, where we're at on it and everything. We like to include everyone in on this process in case there's feedback or maybe there's processes that you guys are working on internally that we don't know about, or maybe some of the tribes might need help in getting these IGAs to get it signed off and approved by leadership. So those are some of the things that I would really like to talk about during these meetings, to collaborate on things that we have going on. Of course, the EBV updates, we keep you guys in the loop of it, even though it's more targeted towards the compliance measures are targeted towards the access providers, and then also the CARES Act, some of the fundings that are out there and the discussions that is happening within access regarding the CARES Act. And then the quarterly meeting updates, who can participate. I'm sure you guys all received that email a couple of days ago outlining, what our expectations are during these quarterly meetings. So that is another thing we'll talk about. Last and not least, the subjects that I will be covering today will be the hybrid office, which is another project that Access is working on right now internally. I really need your feedback when we get to this topic, because when we're talking hybrid within Access, we talk about how we can improve some of our system, how can we help our team members internally to be able to work, to have a successful and productive work environment from their own homes, and we have some success stories in that area too. But what I did mention was Access, not only is Access hybrid affecting the Access employees, but we have to remember our partners out there. So I want to get some, which was brought up a lot of questions like, what do you mean by that? I know we've discussed, and my team has discussed with me also, that there has been a lot of technology issues during this period. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting some feedback from you. What are the challenges that you are coming across? What are some success stories that you guys have that I can share with our leadership team as we move forward in the hybrid environment? I'm not too sure how many will continue to stay or how long we will be working from home. So we just want to get some feedback on that towards the end of my presentation. And of course, Kevin will be covering the quarterly deliverables, the DTB updates, at the digital toolbox update, the population graph. He'll be going over that. Sonny will be going over the CA-168. I believe there's some issues that were going on with the income verification. When services are reduced, not only in the HCBS setting, but in other services that members are receiving. So those are some of the things that we want to talk about. The dummy code, when we should be using that. Cheryl will cover our biggest topic that, well, actually, it's like one of the biggest projects that we have that we will really need, will be available to guide you and to help you moving forward to transition the CES that are between 80% and also 99%, how we'll be planning out to transition that responsibility over to the leadership within each of your programs so that you guys can take ownership and approve them at your level without having to submit it to Access, because we know waiting on us to approve those services sometimes can be time consuming and it takes a lot of review. So she'll be covering that, the timeline for that, and different trainings that will be scheduled moving forward. She'll also be talking about the FAQ that she's really worked hard on. For the past couple of days, we went back and forth, updating that FAQ to update the information on the dental. Vanessa will also be covering the DME, customized wheelchairs. We know that this has been a real big issue with a couple of the providers during this, not only this quarter, but I believe like the past 3 quarters that we've had. We fine tune it, then they come back and something else happens. So she'll be going over that, the PA processes for Medicare primary members, and also the PA policy reminders. Secure email, another issue and topic, which will probably align with some of the things that I go over in the hybrid environment. The DME tool, there is a new tool that we've been working on internally, just to kind of help the supervisor sign off on things, because I know everyone is so busy that there are times that your case manager may submit a request for a DME or other requests that they're sending in, but this one typically is mainly for the DME tool. So we kind of wanted to streamline that process, and at a leadership level, empower the leadership to let them know, review some of these things before your case managers submit them, because your sign off is saying that, yes, this is appropriate, this is medically necessary, and this is cost effective. Because when it comes time to audit, you know, your rating is based on the program as a whole, not an individual case manager. The audit results are based on the entire program's performance. So that is the reason why we want to just try to go ahead and focus on making sure the supervisors know what my team knows. So that way you can reiterate it at your level and communicate that information to your team, because that is basically the responsibility of each of the program according to the IGA. So with that being said, we can move forward with our presentation.
Okay, we're going to start with an icebreaker, and we have a fun one for you today, we think. We hope you'll enjoy it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. So this is called The Great Halloween Escape, as you can tell. I'm going to go ahead and read this, and you can follow along, those of you who are logged in. So as a team building activity, Tribal ALTCS decided to take a field trip. Unfortunately, the bus broke down, oh no, and was towed to a service station for repairs. While it was being repaired, the group decided to visit a Halloween maze. This is where our story begins. Oh, it is up to you how the story ends. You will start at the beginning of the maze and must find your way through to the bus, which has been repaired and is waiting to bring you home. So this is a team activity. Everyone will be tasked with solving a series of 3 puzzles for the key to unlock the gate. Locate a secret passageway, avoid traps, and find your way out of the maze and into the bus to head home. The puzzles are related to Halloween, as you can obviously tell. You are tasked with saving yourselves and the valuable work you all complete daily. Are you up to the challenge, and will you become part of the maze, doomed to roam within its many twists and turns for eternity, like other unfortunate individuals you may encounter along the way? As you answer 5 questions in each of the 3 puzzles, you will need to follow directions carefully to uncover a key. Choose the key out of a multiple choice questions and answers to unlock the next puzzle. If you make it to the last puzzle, the final key will take you safely to the bus to return home. Type your answer in the comments section. The first 3 people, well, we were going to do this. Haven't quite decided, but the first 3 people to answer the most questions correctly was going to receive a $10 gift card. I'm sorry, we meant to take that out, but we still may do that if we have time, but we're kind of limited for time. But good luck. Everybody ready? Next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Woo.
So we're going to try and make this fun, and please everybody participate. Puzzle 1 is a mind teaser. Okay, the passageway is filled with spiders crawling everywhere, and yet it is very quiet. The spiders scatter as you enter. So many webs. You flinch as you hear the faint sound of the webs stretching and snapping against your skin as you enter. Are there any spiders on you? You can't help but feel as though one is crawling up your arm. As you slap at the spider, imaginary or not, you enter and begin the next challenge. To make it through this challenge, you must unscramble words associated with Halloween. Please use all capitalized letters in your answers in the chat and then type them in the chat box. Okay, here we go. Number 1. All right.
Please
Unscramble
unscramble number
that.
1.
We got a correct answer. Go ahead and show the answer.
Ooh, Lakeisha.
It's goblin. Thank you. We got 3 answers. Thank you. 3 answers. Lakeisha, Anne, and Alicia. Can you write that down, Cheryl?
I got it.
Okay. Next. Okay. Unscramble it. What is it? We got a correct answer. We got 2 correct answers. Anne, Hale, Alicia.
One more.
All
Come
right.
on.
It's pumpkins. Okay. Just watch that. Could you? Oh, and Sonia.
All
Okay.
right.
Next. Okay. Who has it? Anybody? Oh, we got 1, 2,
Ooh.
3.
Anne.
We got it. Yay! The vampire. Next. All right. Who's got it?
Ooh.
Oh, there it is.
All right.
Lorinda.
Hey.
Anne. And one more. Dracula. Yes. Okay. And the next one. What's the final one? Anybody? This was kind of a mind teaser for us. Oh, right.
Oh,
We got the
Alicia.
right answer.
Alicia. Awesome.
It was
Wow.
Warlock. Yes.
We-
Thank you, Rydell and Alicia.
Wow, we know
Okay.
who does word search, right?
Yeah. Okay, next. Go ahead. All right, great job. Once you enter the correct response, you've met the challenge and you will escape the yellow eyes, which have been following you the last 100 yards. As you near the passageway, your steps quicken into a run. You do not know what is following you and you don't wish to know. The important thing is that you now have what you need to put it behind you. Take the second letter from each of the answers on your screen there, and starting with question 5, and you're working your way to question 1. Okay, so, and use all capitalized letters and put your answers in the chat box. And the possible answers are next. That's the possible answers. So unscramble that, the second letter from each of the answers, starting with 5, working your way up to 1. So A starts with A.
Come on, you guys. Woo! Unknown.
All
Who's this?
right, we got it right. I don't know who unknown is. Maybe you could tell
Please.
us who you are. We got 3 correct answers.
All right. Unknown.
Okay. All right, and the correct answer is number 3. And Sonia, there we go. Unknown, Lakeisha, and Sonia, whoever unknown is. All right, next. You were so good at this. Now you're going to be handed off to the next spooky tribal ALTCS team member, puzzle number 2. I am going to introduce Cheryl Begay.
Woo! Boo! Okay, puzzle number 2. This is all about scary movies. Ooh. Okay, stay sharp as the evening shadows have faded and the night is held captive in darkness. You can barely see your hand in front of you, in front of your face, but you push on, hoping that the full moon will once again peek out from behind the ominous clouds. Even as you hope for light to escape the dark sky, you are not sure you want to see what is behind you. Or even worse, what may lie ahead of you. In this puzzle, you will identify the source of the scary quote from a famous Halloween movie. type your answers in the chat box. Okay, let's start off with number 1. Remember, these are quotes from a scary movie. I see dead people. What scary movie does that come from?
Oh, we got a correct answer.
Woo! Lakeisha, Sonia, Raydell, awesome.
Okay, I got them down here.
Okay, number 2, the second quote, in space, no one can hear you scream.
Does anybody remember?
Oh, right
Right
there.
here. All right. Anybody else?
Okay. Number
Okay.
3. Do you like scary movies? Yeah, Sonia.
We have Lakeisha, Sonia,
And
and Rydell.
Awesome. Okay, here we go with quote number 4. Do you want to play a game? Do you want to play a game? Oh,
We know who
Sonia.
watches scary movies.
Really? Okay, great job, everyone.
Thank you. Oh, all right.
There's
Next,
one more, right?
There's
more.
one more. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Five, four, three,
3, 2,
2, 1.
Okay, show the
Anybody?
answer. The,
The
fly.
fly.
We had
Nobody-
it. We couldn't figure that out.
We
either.
couldn't figure it out either. So it took us-
Nobody wanted to date themselves, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, great job, everybody. Okay, you are reaching a fork in the maze. Which way is which? Wait, is that a witch I see? Will the witch tell us which way is which? Don't count on it and don't hesitate too long, as you don't know what she has up her wicked witch's sleeve and or brewing in her cauldron. To move to the final level, you must find the witch's magic wand and repeat the key 3 times. From number 1 to 5, take the third letter from each answer in that order. Remember, you must say the answer 3 times. The possible answers are, so from 1 to 5, take the third letter from each answer. Yay!
Oh.
Awesome. Come on.
Okay, we've got
Woo.
Lakeisha, Rydell, Niana,
And
all
Diana.
correct. The
All
correct
right.
answer.
Awesome, you guys. Awesome. The correct answer is EIRWE 3 times. Okay, thank you. That was great. Now you will be handed off to the final, the most spookiest, the scariest tribal ALTCS team member for puzzle number 3. Here he is, Zombie Hoy.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. You see the witch as her face registers that you have her wand. She isn't happy. You wave it like your life depended on it, and it just may have. And repeated the magic letters 3 times. Poof! You are transported to the next level. The wand is gone, just like that. You are once again left with only your wits to get you through the night. The night air suddenly turns cold, so very cold. The wind is howling, whistling through the maze. It seems to beckon you deeper into the maze as it searches for the newly lost souls who have given up. But not you. You are more determined than ever. You wrap your arms around yourself to ward off the cold and to continue on your quest. Type your answers in the chat box to the answers to these questions below. The riddle is, the skeleton's favorite number has 2 digits. It is an even number. The total of the 2 digits equals 10. It is less than 30. What is my favorite number?
2 digits. Remember, it's 2 digits. Okay, not yet. We don't have a correct answer yet. Trying.
And it equals 10.
It equals 10.
The 2 letters equal 10, which some of those, yeah.
Less than 30. No.
2 digits, less than 30. Okay, 5.
Okay.
4.
The answer is,
3.
All
We
right.
got a correct answer.
Lakeisha.
Alicia.
All right. Good job.
I'm tall when I'm young, short when I'm old. I can be hot and can give off an eerie glow in the right setting, especially around Halloween. Sometimes I can smell good, other times not. What am I?
All
Ooh,
right.
Lakeisha. Awesome.
Oh,
Right
go,
now,
Lakeisha.
awesome.
Yeah, ew. The answer is candle. Nice. Number 3. Spiders are playing with numbers. The numbers they started with are 1, 2, and 4. The second set of numbers are 2, 4, and 8. The third set of numbers start with 3 and 6. What is the last number? Answers are rolling in.
Okay, it's I'll give you a clue.
Come
It's
on.
a 2-digit number.
Yep.
5,
4,
4,
3,
3, 2,
2,
1.
1. And the answer is,
Wow.
oh, okay. That threw people for a little bit of a curveball on that one. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
we did. Yeah.
Riddle number 4. I follow you. I follow you. It's my thing. I am quiet as a mouse, never making a sound. I creep on the ground, but never get dirty. I can be spooky, but I never come out in darkness. What am I? The answer is one
All
word.
right, Sonia.
Oh, Sonia.
Anybody else? Type in the answer.
Could be something else in shadow.
Right on.
All right.
Rydell. Woo-hoo.
All right, Sonia and Rydell.
Nice. And the answer is shadow. Good job, you guys.
Good job.
Okay, number 5. Although not usually associated with Halloween, I can be seen around the holiday. My name starts with E and ends with E, but only has one letter. What am I? And this one is a tricky one.
This is a
sure.
tricky one.
Yeah.
That's what we thought.
Ooh, that's what we thought,
Yeah,
That
Rydell.
was not quite right, but that's what we got, and we were wrong. But good guess.
Good guess.
Good guess because
Oh.
we made that guess too.
We did. That's exactly what we thought. So it
Right.
begins with E, ends with E, and has one letter in it. It's got a total, the answer has a total of 8 letters. Just
Hint,
as a hint.
hint. Dear Santa.
Yeah, I'm going to
Oh.
mail this off. I'm going to mail it in a, put my stamp on it.
Yay, Radell.
All right. Woo! And the answer is
Awesome, Anne.
excellent. Good job, you guys. That's a tough one. That was tough for
That
Archie,
was
too. We went back.
tough, yes.
You're only
Thank
one
you.
key away from destination. Good job, you guys. Will you survive the zombies? The moaning is penetrating you to your very soul. Quickly find the key to end this torture. To unlock this gate, take the first and last letters from the answers to questions number 2, 4, and 5 in that order. The possible answers are and they're listed below. Good luck.
So take the first and last letters from the answers to 2, 4, and 5. What is it?
Ooh, Lakeisha.
2, 4, and 5.
All right, Niana.
All right. Very good. And
Anybody else?
All right, Lori.
Good job. The answer is number 1. Good job, you guys. Fantastic. Wow. Get up there. Cool. You've reached the end of our Halloween breaker. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And Sonny put this together, which is a fantastic job. Great job, Sonny. Thanks for doing that.
oh, you're welcome. It was fun.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, everybody, for participating. Now we'll hand this off to Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you. That was
Sure.
fun. I mean, we
Was.
enjoyed it. It took us a while to go through the puzzles, but you know, some of us aren't movie watchers, so it was like, whoa, wait. There was more tricky questions, but we picked out, I know Sonia went through it. I think she picked out some of the ones that were not so hard and challenging, but yeah, thank you so much for participating.
Thank you,
was a-
everybody.
That was a conglomeration of Kevin, Cheryl, and I who picked out those questions. Just want to give them
okay.
credit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. The best part of this meeting is policy, because this is kind of, I always tell everybody, my team and whoever that is new that comes on board, if there's anything that you need to learn, is the policy, because the policy is kind of like is a weapon on our superhero belt, and sometimes that's what we need at the spur of the moment. You have to make these decisions. So it's really good for your team for yourself as a leader to really get to know these policies, because you could be asked questions by your team member. You could also be asked questions internally with your tribe. If you know the policies, you're able to interpret it and also implement some of these things on your end with your team, and to explain, not always having to call access to explain for you. I mean, if you need clarity on something, if you have questions on something, and also when these policies are presented at APC, then goes out to public comment, you know, that's where we're seeking feedback from the tribal community, also tribal leadership, whoever's all involved, whoever can see this, whoever's able to see some of these updates that are happening. The feedback is really important. I know we did get a most recent feedback from one of the tribal long-term care programs. So that's telling me that that leader is actually looking in and you know, looking at what changes are coming, what's going to happen. So it's really important for all of you as leaders to know your policies, and also as supervisors or leads. If your supervisor is not there, if you have that knowledge, of the policy, you can communicate not only with your team members, but also with providers, because a lot of the services that are authorized impacts the provider. And who sends the referral to your providers? It's your case manager. So to avoid any delays in services or delay in letting the provider say, just call ALTCS. If you know the policy, it's easier for you to help that provider resolve the issue and explain, what is covered, what's not covered, when ALTCS will pay, when they won't, because it's all in these policies. So it's really important to stay up to date with the policy. So within this month, there was 2 policies that were approved and published. Actually, both of them were exhibits. There was the UAT tool has now been updated. A lot of the verbiage in there for that was the update with the person-centered planning, information related to that. How there was very minor changes in that policy. So take a look at it, see what you see on there, and just if it's not in line with what you're actually referring your case managers to, please just remind them that there is a new form out there. I don't believe we have this on the digital toolbox yet, right, Kevin? The UAT?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay, so it's not on there yet, but always just refer your case managers to the one that is on the exhibit in the AMPM policy. And then also, this is the one that was kind of like, I really like the second one, 1620-7 exhibit out-of-state placement. The only reason why I say that is because when I had directed some of my questions to the case manager, or actually the supervisor who actually provided a response, it was really impressive because it showed me that supervisor is engaged with what's going on and trying to keep up with the updates that's going on at the ALTCS level, and provide it and say, hey guys, we really need to add these 2 other providers. Can we do this? And of course, the policy team said, what is the ratio, the caseload ratio in that area? How many members are impacted by this change request? So that was the only feedback I was waiting for from the person who provided that public comment, the case manager or the supervisor who provided that comment. So when you respond to public comments, please justify your rationale behind why we should add something, or why we should eliminate, why you're requesting to eliminate a certain maybe verbiage, or reprocessing, processes that we have in place, have a rational reason behind that, because they will come back and ask us why. Why do they want this change? Because these policies have been in place for a very long time. Nothing really has changed except for the person-centered planning. There's some language in there that was changed for EVV and some of the policies. So just please make sure that you have your reasons why you want to add additional information to that policy, because you can just say it, but you have to have justification why you want it for these changes to happen for you. But after the information, the feedback I got from the supervisor, we were able to add additional providers onto that, the out-of-state placement, which is now on the digital toolbox. The out-of-state placement is really for those members who live closer to the New Mexico and Utah area. In that area, more or less, we have members that go to those placement if they're needing rehab, and some very few are for long-term care, longer stays, but we do have some. So it was really good, and I'm glad that supervisor came forward and said, hey, we need to add this, because that was one of the things that we were talking about as a team internally prior to us to updating that form. So thank you so much for the input on that. Those policies are out there right now. The current policies that we're working that impacts the tribal ALTCS program is internally, these are the current policies that are under review. We have 810, the fee-for-service utilization management. We have the 820, the fee-for-service prior authorization requirements. And then we also have the 1620F, which is the tribal fee-for-service standard. So I kind of wanted to go into detail about these, the first two policies, because these, the 800s were basically used for the CMSU unit within Access. They were basically created to say, this is what is in the rule, and this is what services are available for the fee-for-service population. So the utilization management is really important for U.S. leaders to get familiar with. It's just a high-level overview of the utilization for the services that are provided, not only to ALTCS, so it doesn't all relate to tribal ALTCS. There's AIHP, DDD members. It all refers to some of those. So we go back and you look at those. What are, what are some of the topics in those areas, or the subjects in those areas that I need to familiarize with myself with, because it relates to services that a member could receive. That's a long-term care service. The 820, this is a really important one, to where these are the actual services and what needs to be authorized. What needs to be authorized? These are just plain just services. It covers all sorts of services, acute care services, dental services, and other services. So please look at those. What are the requirements? Requirements meaning there's certain documentations that have to be attached. There's time frames in there of when it needs to be submitted. It doesn't specifically say where or what dollar amount. When the benefit, what is the benefit limit? It doesn't really specify all of those, but what are the PA requirements? So when we say PA requirements, what we've done was creating that DME, the new check sheet. We're getting bits and pieces of information sometimes, and then we get a lot of times, I would say 75% of the time, we get a complete packet where everything is in there. So that's telling me that some of the supervisors are looking at the 820 and know what the requirements are, what needs to be included in this PA request. So that's really good for case managers to really look at those policy and go back and read it and get an understanding of how it all works, because as leaders, it really does help you to kind of solve issues at your level if you know these policies. So the last one is the biggest one that I really want to talk about, because with this 1620F, it's tribal fee-for-service standard. These are for case managers when they would submit a request, because we figured in the 820, it just talks at a high level what documentation needs to be sent in for prior authorization, but it didn't specifically say who to send the authorization to. What dollar limit does it need to be at in order to submit the request? So on 1620F, please look out for that. It was under current review. It just signed off. It just passed the AD sign AD sign off and the APC sign off. Now it's going to be presented at presented out for public comments. So please look at that. We were really mindful to, but it took a lot of work for us to add additional things to provide clarity, especially for those supervisors that are brand new. The new supervisors that are coming in, we have case managers who roll into leadership roles too, because it happens on our end too. We wanted to make it as clear as we could so that leaders can look at this policy and say, oh, okay, that's that dollar amount. Okay, case manager, you need to submit that to so-and-so at Access. So that covers where those PAs need to be submitted to and when it needs to be submitted. So, but always go back to the prior authorization requirements, because in those requirements, it tells you what information needs to be sent to Access. So those are some of the policies that are coming up. They should be out for public comment. Please look out for those. Provide response. The main one I really need you guys to look at is the 1620F when you have the opportunity. But please be, like I said, if you're going to provide a public comment to any of these policy, you have to have a justification, a reason why, your rationale behind why you are proposing a certain change or in addition to any of the policies that come up. You can't just say, I want this to change, because they're going to ask us why. You know, if there's no justifiable reason I can give them, then it's going to remain the same. So please take some time to do that. If you're the one that is looking at these, or if you have someone within your tribal program that reviews some of these policies, please let them know when this comes up. Let me know. I want to review it. So it gives you guys all that opportunity to review them. So policies are basically our superhero weapon out there. It really helps with members, it helps with providers, and it also helps with your case manager to provide clarity at your level. So please review those. Next slide. Okay, the next topic for the tribal ALTCS IGA status, we've talked about this at the last quarterly meeting, and then I've also brought it up at the monthly COVID meeting to let people know that I need information moving forward. There's different sections of Division of Fee-for-Service Management here at Access, and like the TRIBAs have their own IGAs. You know, there's different contracts, there's different agreements that are made between providers, facilities, and also some of the programs that we have within Division of Fee-for-Service. For tribal ALTCS, we have the tribal ALTCS IGA with 7 of the tribes. This is not including Native Health because Native Health is on a contract. So this information is more for the tribes that currently have an IGA with Access. I'm not too sure if you as leaders have privy to this information, but this information is really important for you guys to know about. You need to know as a leader, you need to know, what did your tribal leadership agree to with Access? You know, if your tribal leadership signs off on a legal document, which is the IGA, saying that, yes, we have the team. Yes, I have leaders. Yes, I have supervisors that can do this work. We want to select our own tribal members to be able to provide these services within our community. So these IGAs, there's been little changes since I've been in the position, within the program, I should say. There's been slight changes in how the IGAs are written out. One of the current proposal I have is to change the verbiage from contractor to tribal ALTCS programs. So that is currently being updated in the draft document, because I'm always specifying we don't have contracts with them. We have an agreement. And my biggest thing, communicating that internally and externally to everyone, is that an agreement is that we have a partnership. So if one of our programs fail, if they fail for whatever reason in the audit, or if they're failing getting the overdue reports, if there's something that they're failing in, we're just as accountable as you guys are. I tell my team that all the time. If there's a deficiency somewhere, you can't just blame the tribes for it. They're our partners. We are just as accountable as they are. So we need to make sure that we're providing clear information to them, especially during the training. So with that being said, I really encourage you guys, if you have a question, if you want to bring a question to Access, please be really mindful and know the IGA, know what the requirements are, know the policy, because that really helps us to know, what do you know? What are you doing at your level to resolve some of these issues? Because leaders within your level, if I had issues coming up to me all the time, it's very few, very few times I escalate any issues to my AD. Because I know the biggest part of my job and the biggest part of my responsibility is to know what's in the IGA, to know what's in the policy, to know the ins and outs of some of these processes. So that's what we really need you guys to do at your level, so that it really helps you out to be able to provide that support to your case managers. So the email that I'm talking about was sent out on October 22nd. I only received 4 responses. So I'm still missing 3 responses. Did you get that email? If you didn't get that email, please let me know, so that way I can go ahead and resend that back out. That email does outline who signs off on it, who actually receives it, who signs off on it. I need the point of contact information. I also need to know the process that you have in place. I know a couple of tribes have explained to me, well, we get it. It has to go through this process and it takes this long. Then it goes to another level. Then it takes this long, and so looks at it. Then it goes back. I mean, everyone has different processes. So it's really good to know what is your internal process, so that we at Access are mindful when we're making these when we're negotiating through this IGA process of what's going to change, or what do we need to add, who are we waiting on, because June 30th is going to come quick. And with, everyone busy with the pandemic and moving back into the offices, going back out into the field, those kind of things, we can get caught up in it. So please provide that information. I did provide a response by the end of business tomorrow. So please, if you haven't looked at it, take some time to look at that and provide a response to me, so I know exactly where our attorney needs to send that IGA and who will be following up with on the IGA of what is all outlined in there. There are going to be very minor changes. There's not really anything but changing the verbiage from contractor to long-term care program. Also, they're going to add person-centered planning verbiage in there to replace the service plan. So those are just some minor changes that are proposed. Another thing I believe is the end date of that, of the IGA. I think that's going to be looked at too. So, but those minor changes will be out and open for discussion during if you as a tribe decide, hey, I do need a listening session, I do need help to get my leaders involved. Maybe they have questions, maybe your tribe doesn't have questions. Depending on what it is, please make sure that you communicate and say, Rachel, hey, we do need a listening session. That is all outlined in that email that I have sent out to you guys. So please look at it, because we really want to establish a clear, smooth process to where we're implementing, whatever the new updates are on the IGA, and that you guys are in the loop and aware of what's going on, because many of the supervisors that come in don't know anything about what the agreement is. And we're always hearing Access is making us do it. The state level is telling us to do it. This is what's on the IGA is basically referring back to the policy. So whatever is in the policy is not just applicable to tribal ALTCS. It is applicable also to the managed care organization. They also have to comply with all of these policies. So please understand that when we propose this to the tribes, we're saying, okay, do you have the capability of doing this? Do you have the staff that has the knowledge to do this? Do you understand that this is not at the state level? These are all federal requirements. They're all in the rules. They're all in the federal requirements. So please understand that. So just to be clear that this is not just a one-off to where, well, this tribe, we want them to do this, and this tribe, we want them to do this. No, it's across the board for MCOs and and tribal ALTCS programs. So please take a look at those things and provide some feedback. And listening sessions are basically to help the tribe and the leadership or supervisor to help them to understand some of the changes that has happened, or if you're new and you want clarity on it, or you need a little bit more information during those listening sessions, we will be able to provide that. Next slide. I have to watch my time here. I think I have a couple more slides. So this will be a quick update. For the last time we talked about the EVV, electronic visit verification, I know I bring this up at every quarterly meeting because your help in getting them up to speed. You know, some of these providers are starting to utilize the equipment. Some of these providers are starting to participate in the meeting. So, you know, thank you to those of you who are actually putting the EVV information on your referral or verbally communicating it out there to your providers. You know, I appreciate that but we are still at the 9 fee-for-service provider who haven't started the SENDATA training at all. So that is something that we're working with the tribes. As long as you're providing that information, you know, that this is a federal requirement. Here is the link if you want to add it to continue adding it to your referral. That's great. They are still in soft edit. They're not hard edit right now. There's a lot of different barriers that we're running into in our system wise with communicating with SENDATA's system. So those are some areas that is getting fine tuned right now. It sounds like we're getting really close now. A lot of good questions from providers. We do have about 4 providers across the board for all of our fee-for-service population providers that provide in-home care services, 4 providers who are so engaged. And they're also the same spiel I have for you guys. You have a policy that you have to follow. Look at that. There's requirements, there's audits that are going to be happening. These are your employees. They're not tribal ALTCS case managers' employees. They're your employees. So however way you handle your employees and communicate and educate these members is very, very important. So I emphasize that with them when I'm actually working with these providers. So this is if you could continue to add that to your referrals, that would be great. You don't have to answer any questions. You don't monitor providers. You know, you're not monitoring the whole process of the EVV requirements. All we're asking is just educate your member, let them know, you know, maybe when you do the visits, ask them, you know, have you gotten your device? What kind of device did they give you? Did they train you on it? How do you feel about it? Are you comfortable with it? You know, those are some questions that you can ask. You know, maybe it's easier. I've heard it's easier. They can submit their timesheet all on the devices now. So those things, there's been some improvement. And then we also, for us as a program, we now know that a provider, a DCW worker has provided services for the day. We can run reports on them. So we monitor the provider. The Tribal ALTCS program's responsibility is to educate the member. And that's also in our IGA. Educate the member, you know, get feedback from the member, you know, and this is re-emphasize that this is a requirement by the federal government. So these are some of the things that we are really asking your help on, is the education piece of it, not the provider issue, the educating your member and finding out if these providers are actually, if they're on the list. If you go to the next slide, Vandana, if they are on this list here, and if you see that there is a provider on this list that you send referrals to, just re-emphasize to them, you know, we know the EVV is coming along. We want to just make sure that you're in compliance. It looks like you continue to appear on the list. Just please make sure work with access to get into compliance. And so these are some of the providers that are still outstanding. So we've received a couple of phone calls and questions regarding the American Rescue Act, the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan allocations. We received information on that so far with I did refer one of our internal staff to communicate this out to the person who was calling regarding ARPA. There is still discussions internally. There's more detailed information on our ALTCS webpage. If you have a provider calling you or have questions related to ARPA, please just, give them this information if you have privy to it, or if you have time to get it out to them, look it up, whatever, save it somewhere to let them know, hey, there is a web page here on ALTCS's webpage. There's information related to ARPA. And this is mainly towards the home and community-based services. The enhanced federal match and also funding is short term and must be spent by March 31st of 2024. So we have 3 years to spend down on that funding. There was a stakeholders meeting that was held back in July. Currently, you'll get all the updates on this website if you go down to the ARPA HCBS spending plan. So just a couple of days, I know ALTCS respond to CMS again. CMS is kind of our lead in making these decisions on how some of these expenditures are going to happen. We have to get it approved by CMS. It's not something that we at ALTCS say, okay, hand us over the money, we'll spend it as we please. No, it has to be in line and making sure that it does not cross over with other fundings that are happening. So that has to be clearly outlined with CMS. So all that information can be found on the website. So if you have a provider that's calling you, because this is really going to impact our home and community-based services providers. So you can always refer them to that website there. So as for the quarterly meetings moving forward, I know there's been a couple of case managers or supervisors who have made contact with my team to let them know that so-and-so is going to participate. We want so-and-so to participate. We're really trying to make it to where we're empowering the case managers, because within the past 2 quarters now, we have case managers that are calling us. We have supervisors who are calling us, and they're wanting to know what is the correct information. Or some of your team members are doing one thing, another team member is doing something else. So these quarterly meetings are specifically for supervisors. We want you to have the knowledge that our team has. We want you to be able to make decisions that our team has in place, because this will really help you to empower you to make those decisions at your level. And I believe last year and the year before, some of the tribes were looking at, we want to take over tribal ALTCS. We want to have our own program out here. We want to do our own thing. But really, you have to remember all of these changes and requirements come from CMS. There's a lot of federal requirements in here that we have to roll out to be from ALTCS's standpoint. We look at some of these requirements, we break it down, and we put in our input from Division of Fee-for-Service Management to say, hey, this isn't going to work for tribal communities. This is going to be a challenging area. We've had experiences where a case manager, supervisor, she did her best many times to coordinate services. But because of the tribal laws, tribal business licenses, and other issues related to tribal land, or some of these providers don't want to go on to tribal land, it's really, really hard for us to decide what we're going to, how we're going to resolve these issues. So these are some of the areas that, we one-on-one help that case manager, and even reiterating that information internally here with our team, our leadership team, to say, this isn't possible. Look at all the data, and that one specific supervisor, she was one step ahead of the game and provided the information to us. So anytime we met with our leadership, it's like, yeah, they already tried that. Here's the list. They already tried that. Here's the list. We were showing them that they've exhausted, the Tribal ALTCS program has exhausted everything that we've covered in previous quarterly meeting. That supervisor really took ownership and was prepared when she sent it over to us and said, hey, Rachel, I'm all out of options. This is what I have done. And I know that was all from, knowing the policy, participating in these meetings, having the voice for their tribal community, not complaints, not griping, because nothing gets solved that way. We have to come to, a point where we all work together because we're partners. We work together to say, okay, what is the barrier? What is the issue? What do we
Rachel, we lost sound from you.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's just I'm like towards the end of my time. So that is pretty much what I wanted to explain. Go over the email that I had sent out regarding if you guys have any questions, like you as a program.
Rachel, can hear you.
You can't hear me? Can everybody else hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
I can hear you.
now.
Can you hear me now, Rydell? It might be something on your end. You might need to call in.
Yes, we can hear you. The chat is affirmative for sound.
Yes.
Okay, if somebody could put in the chat, let Rydell know if he could just call in, that would be good. So the last thing on this slide is that if your program decides after your leaders, US supervisor feel like, okay, I've already tried to communicate, you might have to, somebody let him know he might have to call in and provide him the call in number?
Yes. I just now sent instant
Okay.
message.
All right. So, okay. So if you request, if you want to, you're always welcome to set up a different meeting with your team, and as a leader, schedule that meeting with Access to say, I know we've done just more recently training with one of the tribes where the supervisor and they also invited one of their case managers, and with certain processes. And that took a lot of time. I know it took a couple of days for, Sonny to schedule that and do individual training with that, that supervisor and, and also, the supervisor and the case manager. So please be mindful that if there's something that you're not understanding from here or you need individual training on something, please let the team know. We can schedule time. It won't happen the same day that you call in, but we can schedule a time where we can create something or maybe do an online walkthrough with you by sharing your screen and stuff. So please just be mindful of that. We want you, like, once again, I'm not going to stop saying this. We need, we really need you guys to know and want you guys to know what we know so that you can make those decisions on your end. Next slide. Oh, I got 7 minutes to go, I think, or 6 minutes to go. Okay, so with the hybrid model, the hybrid workforce model, this is a topic that we've been talking about here at Access. During the public health emergency, some employees are, this is not just at Access level, this is in the tribal level too. You have workers that are working from home, you have workers that are transitioning back into the workplace. So just kind of wanted to get some feedback from you guys. The tools needed. What were some of the tools that you needed that you needed to be, to manage your team effectively? As a leader, what are some of the things that you've identified, the ideal balance to lead your team in a hybrid environment? What helped you, what's maybe sources or tools help you to maintain productivity and engagement? What are some of the digital opportunities that you guys are collaborating about on your end, that you're using to the max? I know quite a bit of you are having technology problems. So these are some of the areas that we're looking at. I mean, when we talk about hybrid here at the Access level, everybody talks about internally. We get virtual updates, we get software updates. We have all kinds of updates constantly happening here at the Access level. And sometimes we have to say, hey, ISV, slow down. Can you please explain this? Can you please tell us where you're at? You're constantly rolling these things out, but we need you to hold on and give us an opportunity to ask questions and to provide feedback, so that we can make sure that our staff has the information that they need, and we want them to be involved. We want them to participate and be part of these big discussions that are happening in the meeting. So how can we make that successful? So the internal communication is constantly happening. So the reason why I wanted to bring this here is to kind of ask you as leaders, what tools do leaders need to build and maintain team trust, to build team trust and ensure productivity in a hybrid environment? What are some of the things that you guys have experienced, and what are some of the good things or the tools that you guys needed that help you to be successful during this public health emergency?
Your feedback would be greatly appreciated. If you want to put it in the chat, that would be great. If not, then just go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Yes, loud and clear.
I don't know why some people can't hear me. I think it's something on their end. So let me just ask these 3 questions. And if you guys have any feedback, we have about 3 minutes. So if not, we'll probably just send this out to you guys, and please respond. I don't want to not include you on some of these responses, because I really want to take some responses to the project team and let them know this is what the tribes are encountering. This is what's going on with the tribe. That basically there needs to be a voice here at Access for the tribe. But if I don't have any response or feedback on some of these questions or presentations we really have no stance to say this is needed, or this is what we need to work on at the Access level to help our partners. So what are some of the best practices for the meeting in a hybrid work environment? How can Access help our partners adapt to a hybrid environment? So those are some of the questions that was proposed and actually being looked at right now. We want to make sure that we're building that trust with you guys from an Access level. But because our partnership with you is not a contract, you basically follow what we follow, but there has been issues within your communities. What are some of the issues, and what are some of the ways that you have been working, some of ironing out these issues, and what has been successful? Because when I'm hearing we have no internet, we have no fax, we have no way, so-and-so doesn't have communication. So that's saying to me as a leader, like, are you hearing your employees? And what is the supervisors doing about it? And once it is brought to your attention as a leader, Who do you send it to? How long does that process take? What is going on with the process? Or maybe during this public health emergency, I know like Lakeisha has really worked with the digital, trying to get their, oh, hold on. I gave myself a time limit here. So another 30 seconds, there's some tribes that have came up with really creative ideas and what has really worked and what can Access do to help you guys out? What do we need to do to help you out? I know a lot of times it's IT issue on your end. It's something that you have to work with ISD on your end. But what are some of the things that you would like or be part of the program to help you to communicate and have these ongoing hybrid meetings? Because it's not going to be till mid-January where it seems like everyone is going to be going back to work. So the feedback is important. We don't want you to be disengaged. We want you to be involved. You are part of our team. So please, provide some of those responses because it really helps us to advocate for you on our end. So thank you so much, Lakeisha, for responding and providing that feedback. And I know, Diana, you've also provided feedback. I do appreciate that. That is one of the things that I'm really going to highlight for Northern Arizona, and which I have advocated for within the EVV processes to the whole work plan, where I've expressed that internet is the biggest barrier that we have in those communities. But what is the tribe doing about it? What are you doing as a leader? How are you proposing that to your leadership? Because some of these are really, some of these topics are really important because it impacts the services that we provide in our community. We can no longer say we can't do it. That's not possible. If you don't even have any type of outlined or rationale behind what did you do about it? Who did you take it to? What was the feedback? What was your response that you got? So internally, you have to work that side. If there's ISD issues, please, take it through your chain of command, because there's nothing we can do about your internal ISD issue. We can, if there's like a connection is not happening from Access to your system, we can work our ISD people can work with your ISD to help resolve some of these issues. But if there's a software update you need to do, how are you handling it and communicating that to your leadership? If there's new fax machines you need to get, how are you proposing to get those new fax machines? Because you as a leader have to be the voice for your team. So those are some of the reasons why, I was asking these questions. So we'll probably throw these questions back out there again. I would really appreciate a response from each and every one of you that's in a leadership role of what you're doing to ensure that this, that how the hybrid work environment has affected your team and how you want it going forward to be successful, and what are some of the ideas that you have. So that is it. A lot in just less than 30 minutes, or a little bit over 30 minutes. But I do appreciate everyone listening in. I don't bring all the fun and the glory to my presentations because it's always at the high level of this is what's going on and this is what's going to happen. So thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. And now I'll hand it off to Kevin.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's doing great. Okay, so what I thought I would do today is just do a comparative kind of analysis of the stats that we had during the third quarter and fourth quarter, and then I'll give you just a couple of examples that I've seen with the difference between the reports that you turn in every quarter. So what I want to the big thing is the on-time rate. I want to thank everyone for submitting your reports through the digital toolbox. It makes it so easy for us now to just kind of drag them into a separate folder as we receive them, and then after we receive them after the due date, we can easily just pull them up and take a look at them. So thank you very much for that. Everyone's using the new form, both third and fourth quarter. Total number of case managers I looked at was 58 for both quarters, third and fourth. And then I just want to give you some other stats, which I think are pretty interesting. So the third quarter looked like we had, on the average from the whole network, 37.9 members per case manager. I know obviously that there's a wide range between the 8 different plans. And this quarter was 28.2. So maybe there was more case managers that were higher that kind of diluted the numbers. Maybe there was less members movement, that kind of thing. So, but I think that's a great trend that we're seeing right there as a reduction in some of the caseloads. Which we also, so we look at the network weighted value. We don't want it to go over 96. If it does for us, that's kind of a red flag to say, wow, we should reach out to the plan and kind of ask them, hey, you know, what are going to be your future activities or plans to try to get these numbers down, or you get hire more additional case managers? What kind of is your plan? So last quarter, the average was 58. And again, this quarter was 52. So again, a reduction in the average of weighted value throughout the network. And a lot of these numbers too, if you want to reach out to me, I can send your individual kind of stats to you. No problem at all. I can send it to an Excel spreadsheet if that's what you need. And then there's the range. Again, some of the weighted values per each plan. It's almost like I said, the lowest weighted value, the average was 31, which is outstanding, obviously. And then it also went up to like 97.4 in the third quarter. Well, the fourth quarter, you can see the range is about the same from the bottom level for the weighted values, but the high was 93. So again, that's a great reduction. Again, this could be a lot of different reasons. I would think maybe it's either if there's new case managers been hired, they're kind of now trained and up to speed, and there's other factors. Having more case managers is obviously going to increase those numbers. So next slide, please. And then just a couple, just some comparatives between the third and fourth quarter for your supervisor audits. I just want to say too, thank you again. I would say compared to the third quarter and the fourth quarter, there's a lot more comments on any of the no's that we get for the different individual questions. So that is fantastic. We will have a better process in the future of giving you kind of individual summaries. There's a lot of information that we've already collected from third and fourth quarter to kind of aggregate the data and say, what is the best way that we can give all the plans feedback on their supervisor audits? I have a couple that we'll talk about, but overall, it's really nice to see a lot of the comments that I've seen. You know, there's a question about service plans. I've seen comments that say that they're, you know, we're going to have a meeting every 2 weeks to address service plans and making sure that those have the signatures and dates. So there's people are putting their kind of their future plans, and that is really excellent to see. So the total, the average of total files for the plan network in the third quarter was 30. Fourth quarter was 38. Again, an increase, which is fantastic. The range of the number of files reviewed. So that's kind of the lowest to the highest. And it obviously depends on what your membership, how many members you actually have. But it was from 11 to 76. And then fourth quarter was 14 to 148. Obviously, more membership you have for your plan. Obviously, with Navajo is the most. That's going to be probably more of the files. But I thought that was kind of an interesting data to kind of look at. Again, that has increased as well. The average percentage of total membership audited, third quarter was around 20%, and in the fourth quarter was 23%. So again, thank you. I think maybe that now we're having a little more attention for the caseload ratio report, and also updating that so it's a little more user-friendly. And then also with the summary audits, we're kind of looking at, I think everyone's taking a little more time and adding more comments. So that's fantastic. The range of total membership audit per plan, third quarter was about, the lowest was 2% up to 46% of your total membership. Fourth quarter was raised to about 13%. That's excellent. So that was the high was actually 13. And then our 45% came down 1%, but I think that's still really good. If you're able to audit half of your member files, again, the larger plans, that's kind of something that might be difficult to do. that's really gives you some great aggregate data to look at and kind of see what trends you see and what could be effective for change in the future. And then we look at also is the plans that have all 100%. On the second quarter, we had 2 plans that answered 100% on all the questions. And the fourth quarter, we had 3 plans. So what I would say about that, and again, we'll have more information starting in next year, especially when we come out and do on-site audits, is that if you have 100% on every question, you'd have to you'd be operating in I'd say a perfect world. So if we came out, we audited, we would expect, okay, everything's 100%. So typically, that's usually not the case, and we aren't looking at low scores so we can come out to an audit. Oh, you only had 53%. If you have a lower percentage, but you have comments, which I see quite a lot now, it really shows that we did see something in our audit that we need to improve on. It's a lower percentage, but then of course, obviously the next quarter, those are improved drastically. So really overall, I really appreciate all the extra comments, and obviously when everyone turns them in on time, that's fantastic. So we can kind of review them and give you feedback. So next slide, please. So with that said, I just want to kind of open it up to everyone. Is there any other data outcomes that you think that us as a team should provide during these quarterly meetings? Some of the data I give you might say, well, yeah, it's really not important. Is there anything that you have seen, even though, of course, the last 6 months, that you think we should look at and present or bring to these quarterly meetings relating to case ratio reports and summary supervisor audit reports?
Again, everyone, your feedback is greatly appreciated at this time.
You can type your answer in the chat box, or if you want to unmute yourself to talk, that would be fine as well.
And it looks like, Anne, you have your hand up. And I also see Rachel has her hand up as well.
Okay, and it says, can this be sent out to give it some thought?
Absolutely, we can do that for sure. That's no problem. And that'll be true of kind of the second question I have is, does your plan look at data in a unique, innovative way to determine how your caseload assignments and/or member file organization operates? Sorry, there's mistypo there, but that would be interesting too, to learn kind of how you look at your caseload. Do you assign them by location, name, randomly, kind of a red robin? And if there are methods that you use, does that help you to keep your caseload ratios lower, so you can make sure that maybe there's certain staff that live in an area they can have those members assigned in that region? That'd be interesting to know as well, because of course we can share that to the networks, and maybe they could use that kind of information for their plan as well. So yes, any of these, if any answers you have or ideas, please feel free to send these directly to me, and we'll look at those and hopefully have information by first quarter of 2022. So thank you. Next slide.
I have a question and some feedback on that. It's very, very quiet. That's a big concern to me. Vandana, if you could go back 2 slides. To Kevin's slides. Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
That one, right? The second one. The next one, I'm sorry. The next one. Okay. So one of the biggest questions and concern I have, and that I ask my team, is to look at those 100% ones. If your supervisor, whoever is auditing these cases, first of all, there's 2 concerns I have with this. Supervisors should never, ever audit their own cases. They should never, ever audit their cases. So there should be another leadership somewhere within your long-term care program that should be auditing your supervisor's cases. The reason why we really emphasize that is because in the past, when we went out to audit, we seen some cases that were messed up. There was misfiles, there was documentation missing, there was PA requests that wasn't followed through, there was referrals that weren't met, there was comments or questions that were asked of the member that were related to behavioral health that were never addressed by the case manager. So that is the reason why, you know, we said, no, this, and one of the findings we made was the supervisor was signing their own, audit reviews. So we really need leadership to take this back and say, okay, hey, I have a such and such case. I cannot audit my own case. So someone else in leadership needs to be auditing that supervisor's case, because 100% basically means if my team goes out there for those specific questions that we have on the audit tool, we'll be looking at those very closely to make sure that they are. And when that supervisor was reviewing it, it was really 100% that there was no deficiencies, because we want to make sure that you as leaderships are really mindful when you're looking at these audit tools and making sure that if your case managers is having a challenge in a certain area, difficulty in a certain area, you fix it at your level. When we go out to audit, then there will be no citing for that area or that section of the audit. So just please be mindful of that as leadership. Make sure that your supervisors are not auditing their own case, because I am aware that there are supervisors who have a caseload.
Thank you, Rachel.
Mhm.
So again, we will have the questions sent out to each tribal ALTCS program supervisor, and you're able to take some time, think about it, and send it back to us. Okay, thank you for that.
Yep. Okay, and so what I thought I'd do is just give you, I know we've talked in our now bi-monthly meetings just about kind of our idea from our team with training modules and kind of a training center. So what I want to do is give you a visual now, and you know, our plan hopefully, won't make a promise, but hopefully by the next quarter, we'll be able to have our case management learning center up and running. So anyway, what our idea would be that you'll go to the digital toolbox. We may have either a separate icon, or you'll just go to the training resources like we have already. And all the modules that we have will be related to topics that are very important to case managers, program managers, to the program in general. And there'll be next slide, please, Mandana. Thanks. So what it'll look like, kind of like this. You'll go into the portal. This will open up, and you'll have choices. Right now, we're actually doing the kind of a test on the skincare module. But you'll go in here. Our plan will have maybe 12, maybe we'll have 16 of these modules. You'll basically just press on one of the different trainings that say, "Oh boy, I really want to learn about skincare." Next slide, please. So you'll click on it. It'll open up basically as a video format. There will be some type of like attestation form that you just enter your name and email so you can just validate your attendance. Of course, that's very important for us, obviously for the program managers at the plans. We will have to come up with a way, is that you can have attendance records to know, oh wow, my staff went. And then we can look at it as well for our own data and just kind of say, wow, what are some areas like, wow, this skincare learning module had 100 hits, there's 100 people watched. This is really important. Maybe we have some other modules that people really, aren't viewing, or the feedback we got, maybe it's boring. Maybe they say, this video really isn't giving us the information and the policy references and things that help us do our job. So each little module, and we're going to try to make them a certain time. So they're fairly quick. But there will be a brief assessment. And at the end of that, you just kind of give us your feedback on the module itself, what kind of improvements you think that we need. And then you'll have the ability again to ask for the list of completed modules. And again, it's just going to be like a virtual library. You just go in there and click on it and take it whenever you want. But we want them to be specific to the case managers, the tasks and all the duties that they have, which is a lot. And then anything that we can add that just makes it easier for all of us to exchange information. So next slide, please. These are some of the topics that we've talked about as a team. Again, getting your feedback is very, very important. So if there's any other topics other than like skincare, the overview of access, our team, maybe just the way we're organized, overall of the tribal plan network, I think would be kind of a nice one to people, like an introduction video, the CES process, home modification, the CA screens and PMIS, an overview of the digital toolbox, overview of the out and placement process, out-of-state placement process, dummy code usage, EMCR process, how to submit your deliverables. So those are just some of the topics and ideas we have. Like I said, we have the skincare module. It's kind of our test. And once that is done, we'll send it out to everyone so they can kind of take a look and see. But please feel free to contact me at any time or anyone on our team of ideas you think, wow, this is a really great training module. And even better than that, if you have one completed that you are willing, that we can actually, we can use and we can review it and see if it really kind of, all the information is what we would think would be very beneficial. Please send that as well, because that would save us from reinventing the wheel. So again, we hope to get this up as soon as possible. We know it's important, but we do want your feedback. And, when we send a lot of our surveys out, which everyone has been doing. So that is an update on that. Again, too, on the digital toolbox, I didn't put it on here, but we did add the out-of-state form is now, if you go to All About Forms on the digital toolbox, we try to send an announcement out, but we do add things fairly, I would say almost weekly. So please just take a look at the digital toolbox whenever you have a chance. But the out-of-state form is on there as well. And the the new open line request form that's fillable is on there. And then if you go to training resources, we now have posted the recorded Tribal ALTCS Collaborative, and that'll be something we'll do going forward. Donna's been recording them like today, and then it'll basically be as a link to YouTube, and then you can watch, listen the entire meeting, which is nice because then you can fast forward to certain trainings, things that you miss. So that is something that we are rolling out, and just take a look at that when you get time. Next slide, please. And these are just the policy references just for the caseload management and supervision as well. So if you want to just take a look at that, it's just exactly what Rachel hit on. Within your audit hierarchy, just kind of designate that next level review. Next slide. And this is our population graph. So it's just a comparison here between September and August. So you can kind of see on the right side, we had 2,233 members. There was a slight decrease in September. And then you can kind of see the numbers as they go down. They do fluctuate a little bit, again, but they stay fairly consistent with the percentages from each plan and also with the total membership. So we know right now with the public health emergency in effect and eligibility not really truly disenrolling, we know the numbers will probably stay this way. They may fluctuate a little bit higher or lower, but we thought this would be just a good snapshot for everyone to kind of look at the network itself. And here's the numbers for the different plans. So next slide, please. And that's all I had. If there's any questions, please reach out to me directly or put it in the chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And next is Sonny Fisher.
Thank you, Kevin.
Sure, thank you.
I'm going to be going over the CA 168 income verification. There's been several questions on that, so we're going to go over that and some examples. We're going to go over the dummy code specialty rates, when to use it, specifically regarding the specialty rates when the rates change. And we'll also be talking about HCBS unit reduction. So we're talking about the actual units. So here is, I have provided the PMMIS manual, which is located on the ALTCS website. It is, this is the actual PMMIS, and on pages 41 and 42, I've provided the link there for you. And it specifically says, this is verbatim, is that income, member income, and it says CA 167 on there, just so you know. It is really what CA 168, it just hasn't been updated. Monthly income data for a member is displayed on this screen. Data is available by the budget months recorded in the ALTCS PMMIS system on screen CA 168, but not necessarily for every calendar month. This data is made available to case managers for purposes of determining room and board charges if and when the member is admitted to an assisted living facility. Again, that is verbatim from that PMMIS manual on pages 41 and 42. So in reviewing the income on CA 168, we have to use logic, and we also have to look at historical income as well as current income to discern what income the member is currently receiving. So next slide. And I know this is kind of small, but when you get the recorded one, you can go in and look at it. But in this case, this member, this example has the PMMIS CA 168 and the HIA Plus income verification have the same, basically the same information. And on June 2020 and prior, the member was receiving income from Southwest Carpenters Union, the SRP, the Northern Trust Com, and Boilermaker Blacksmith incomes. That was from June 2020 and prior. And then this same member began receiving Social Security disability income in August 2019 in addition. So the member continued to receive various incomes up through June 2020. However, that income stopped, and beginning in December 2020, we noticed that the member only received just Social Security disability benefits or payments. Since that time, the only payments a member has received, and what is out on CA 168 for this particular member is May 2021 and June 2021, and they both only show just the Social Security disability payments. So I also verified this with ALTCS eligibility. So go ahead and click next. And this is the 6/2020 next. And this was the 2019 where the Boilermaker, all of those were in. Okay, next. And again, this is 6/1/2020. I know it's hard to read, but it does correspond with the one. So that's the HIA Plus versus PMMIS next. And this was the 2019, August of 2019, where I referenced before above where it said the Social Security disability income started next. And this was December of 2020 when all we see is just the disability. And then next, again, this is I think it's May 2021. And again, all we see is just the Social Security disability. Next. And again, this is June 2021. And again, all we see is just the Social Security disability payments. Next. And again, down in HIA Plus, all we see is just for June 2021, it's just the disability payments. Next. Okay, in this example, this is another example which I wanted to show a couple. The CA 168 and HIA Plus incomes are basically the same information. And you'll notice in November 2018, August 2020, and January 2021, all of the Social Security retirement survivor benefits and SSI cash, the member was receiving both. So next. And here's November, you can see that. November 2018, they were receiving both. Again, August, next. August of 2020, they were receiving both, next. January 2021, they were receiving both. And this is where it gets a little tricky, but, and it is a little confusing, I would agree, but when we look at the history, this is where our logic comes in, and looking at history and current and saying, okay, so this was June and July on the CA 168. And so when we went out, and again, it shows it here down below in HIA Plus, go ahead and click next. And those are, we have to kind of use logic, see that the history is they were receiving both. And apparently they checked the retirement benefits through Social Security in June. They checked the SSI cash in July, but the member was still receiving it. Again, I called, contacted Access Eligibility, and they confirmed that. So this particular member was receiving both Social Security retirement of $548 and SSI cash of $266 for a total of $814 a month. So that is this member's income. It is a bit confusing, I get it, and you know, we're open to you calling if you're really confused, or sending us an email, but this is basically where we're trying to explain, is that you kind of have to look back at history and say, okay, what is the most current? And we are going to use the most current. Okay, next. Okay, so for the dummy codes on the specialty rate, DHCM rates team is still reviewing the 10-1 specialty rates. So the rates changed on 10-1, but those specialty rates take a lot of extra work. And they are still reviewing them for the placements of 0194, which is that specialty rate of, you know, H0018, which is that short-term behavioral health facility, or a BERF, T2031 and T2033, which are the ALFs with the behavioral health. Unfortunately, this is something we go through twice a year, right? And in October and in January, when rates change. And here in Tribal ALTCS, we have no control over the rates due to the delay in the rates. We are asking that the case managers enter the specialty services on the CA 165 screen, but use the dummy provider ID, that 029108, from October 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. And remember, the rates will change again January 1, 2022. So don't put them out there beyond December 31st at this point, because we're, you know, that'll be probably in December you'll do that. But because we don't want it to show up on the no service lines report, but we are tracking it on our end. And when claims come in and they are held because we can't approve that, we're tracking it on our end. So we know what is going on. And Cheryl and I are really monitoring that very closely, and Vanessa helps us as well. So this is a team effort. And as soon as we receive the approved specialty rates, our Tribal ALTCS nurse, Vanessa, who is a rock star, will be sending out the approvals. Um, and this was communicated prior to all of you, I believe, is that providers can contact the rates team to get an update, or if they have questions about the access fee for service reimbursement rates. And we've given you the actual email address there. So if providers contact you and we know they hound you guys and your case managers, please direct them to the rates team. They can send an email there. Hopefully they get responses back, but that is not something we can control on our end. But as soon as those come out, we will be jumping on that. Okay, and Rachel did also say the numbers are also provided to leadership. So that's something that to our leadership, so you understand that. And let's see, Cheryl said, thank you for being proactive in assigning your new members. Great feedback. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is an issue that came up with a couple of members, but we want to address it because it affects everybody at some time or another, is when you have a member in HCBS setting who has a reduction in units and they were at a higher level before and now they're at a lower level because the member's health has improved. Well, that's a good thing. But anyway, so I provided the policy here. It's 1620E and 3 policy, I think it's the 3, 17, and 18. And this is what it says exactly, is if the case manager determines through the PCSP process a change in the member's condition may necessitate a change of placement or services, the case manager shall discuss any potential changes with the member healthcare decision maker prior to the initiation of any changes. This is especially critical if the changes will result in a reduction or termination of services. Also, the member or healthcare decision maker, this is number 18, shall be issued, excuse me, an NOA in the event of a denial, a reduction, which is what we're talking about. Excuse me. Termination or suspension of services. When the member or healthcare decision maker has indicated on the PCSP that they disagree with the type, amount, or frequency of services to be authorized, that's the important part. That's when an NOA should be presented. And there's the 42 CFR 43. So I think I'm going to be okay.
Donna,
Thank you.
do you need help?
I think I'm okay. Just got a tickle in my throat. Okay, the NOA FAQs, I provided you the link for that. And question number 9 from that NOA FAQ says, and I'm just going to talk about the part that we're addressing here, is for reduction of previously authorized service, when does the NOA have to be mailed? So it has to be mailed at least 10 calendar days before the date of the proposed reduction. And so that's the answer to that. Next. Okay, so this is an example to kind of give you guys an idea, is let's just say a case manager previously assessed that a HCBS member required 620 units 7 days a week. So that's the scenario. Now, In the most recent reassessment, let's say that the case manager determines that the HCBS member's health has improved, and they went from a level 2 to a level 1, and now the member only requires 520 units, but they still require it 7 days a week. So we can encourage informal family support, but we cannot require a family member to continually provide informal support a specific day every week unless they agree to that in writing. But that is something that we have to take into consideration. And this can get especially tricky when a family member is the paid caregiver. And this would be on a case-by-case basis and may require the case manager to calculate that those services, those units, and say, how much do we need for 7 days a week? But whatever, I mean, every situation is going to be different. So just make sure that you talk to your case managers about that. When we're reducing units, it is really important to have a discussion between the case manager, the member, the authorized rep, and or the paid family caregiver to ensure that they all clearly understand that the units are being reduced due to the members, their health is improving. So how many units the services are being reduced to, and ensure that they clearly understand the effective date that those reduction in services are going to go into effect. And we recommend that the member and the AR initial and date the PCSP where it reflects the reduced units and the date the reduced services are going into effect. And the reason why we're doing this, or we're asking this, is because we don't want you to be, your case managers, to be liable. What if, you know, this member gets really upset, or AR, and, you know, it goes to court. We're trying to protect you and us. So that we're trying to anticipate whatever possibly could come up. So in the situations that, such as the example above, it would be good to have an NOA on hand when you do the review, but you don't present it unless the member disagrees on the written PCSP of the reduction of units. And again, there's another, there's a link to the
Mom,
language.
are you going to get out anywhere?
Huh? What? Oh, I think she's talking to her mother. Okay. So this is a guide to language for the NOA. So if you're going to create your own, this is the guide to that. Next. And here's some more scenarios. I know my time is limited, so I'm going to go over them really quickly. Is scenario 1, the member requests the attendant care services be terminated. Would that be a time for where services or an NOA is required? No. Not if they ask for services to be terminated. No, that's not it. Then scenario 2, the new member or a new member requests 40 hours a week of attendant care, but the case manager has assessed that the member only needs 25 hours a week. Yes, that would be needed for the denial of the 15-hour difference. Scenario 3, a member who has been receiving 35 hours a week of attendant care is assessed at quarterly review as only needing 30 hours a week. So this is one of those tricky ones. It depends on whether the member marks agree or disagree on the PCSP for the proposed reduction in services. This is again comes back to where you do your initials. If the member marks disagree, then an NOA is definitely required. If the NOA, no NOA is needed if the member agrees. Scenario 4, member has been assessed to need 50 hours per week of attendant care services, but this level of services exceeds 100% of the cost of institutional care for the member. So only 40 hours a week can be provided cost effectively. And the member requests 50 hours a week, but only 40 hours can be authorized. Yes, an NOA is needed. So in scenario 5, provider agency, so this would be the home care agency for the member, has been receiving 35 hours a week for attendant care services or providing, and they're asking to increase it to 40 hours a week. But the case manager has assessed the member only needs 35 hours. So again, this is one of those little gray areas. It depends on whether the member is requesting the increase as well. But if it's just the provider, then they do not, you do not need to provide the member, or excuse me, the provider with an NOA. Next. Okay, any questions? Anne, go ahead. You can type your question or unmute yourself. Okay, Rachel.
I don't want to always be the one with questions, but I have a couple of questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, can you go back to the previous slide, Vandana? Okay, so scenario 4 is the one I have a question on. Member has been assessed to need 50 hours a week of attendant care, but this level of service exceeds 100%. The cost of the institutional care for the member, only 40 hours per week can be provided cost effectively. Members request 50 hours per week, but only 40 hours will be authorized. As you said, these are case by case scenarios, but when we're talking about CES percentage, right? Okay, so there's other services that impact that CES. It's not just attendant care services.
Right.
So that's where I was kind of like, okay, so how the way this is presented, it almost seems as though, I mean, if I was looking at it, I don't know who else might have thought the same thing, but I was looking at only the attendant care services. So how do I weed that out of the CES total? That's how I was looking at it.
So the one thing that in this scenario, number 4, is if, and we all know this is true, is if the services are going to go over 100%, but we know they're going to come down within 6 months, that is something that can be approved. So just keep that in mind. Is yes, it could be approved. That is something that if it goes over 100%, but we need to know what is the plan to bring it back down. Are we going to have some informal support who are, going to agree to provide that difference? Are there services out there that could help bring that down? But that can, so this, I couldn't go into too much detail, but yes, that was a good question. Is yes, this can go over 100%. So when we say it's only going to be 40 hours, that's not actually set in stone. This is case by case. And if this is the member comes out of the hospital and this member is, needs extra care, but we know that they are going to get better, or we believe they are, then that can be approved. And at the higher amount, say at the 50 hours a week, we say, okay, but we know they're going to get better. They're getting PT and OT and they are getting better. And then it comes down. So that can be approved.
Okay, so but these scenarios are only based on if the only services they were receiving was attendant care services in the CES.
That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
that's what I was I
Yeah.
was trying to
Yeah.
determine, is it this for all these scenarios is only for members who only receive attendant care services, because in the CES,
Right.
other services can affect the percentages of that CES. So that's why I
Exactly
was
right.
asking that
That's
question.
exactly right. Yeah, it's hard to cover all of the scenarios that could possibly happen, but good question. And I can update this slide to say, this is um, for
Members who are only receiving
yeah, right,
home
right.
services.
So I can update that to state that, because that was a good point. Thank you,
Okay.
Rachel.
Okay, and then also another update, since you're done with your presentation, I just kind of wanted to emphasize also with her presentation, please be, as a leader, when there's a reduction of services, this is probably something that you want to communicate with your case manager. If you are going to reduce a service, to have them brief it with you first, to go over their rationale behind why they're reducing the services, so you're in the know of what's going on with that member, that case, in the event that we receive an email here at the state level to either our tribal liaison, our director, because provider agencies, we're also on the provider education side. We're really educating our providers to let them know they need to empower the members, to let the members know they have a choice, have the members know that they need to know what benefits they have and what services are allowed to them when it comes to direct care services. So they're really, a lot of them are starting to really educate the member, because we're basically repeating the same thing to them that we're repeating to you, letting them know that these are the benefits and these are the issues, especially when it comes to direct care workers wanting more hours. We get phone calls here, complaints about a case manager, someone who said something to them, somebody's case manager is taking away hours as they please. And then when we go back to look at the CA 165 screen, it's like, was it NOA presented? And so those are some of the areas that you as a leader really have to know, so that when we call you, you already know, maybe member has improved, maybe there's justifiable reason why, and those justifications are in the case file. So that way we know that if the member happened to fall during one of those hours that they previously had services, it's a liability. So, you really have to talk these through with your case manager, that you cannot reduce any hours from the service plan or from services members should have, unless you have justification in the case file. The conversation happened, the member was educated, the member was given the NOA to be able to appeal it if they need to appeal it. So those are some of the processes that you have to know. Case managers cannot, we've heard things like case managers say, I can take away your hours if I want to. We've heard some of those comments. Members would call us and tell us that. Provider agencies are communicating that over to Access, saying, case manager said this to me, I'm in control of these hours. It's like, no, the hours should be based on what has been assessed Monday through Sunday. What does the member need? What help does the member need through 7 days a week? What does that member need? And then once you calculate the hours that the member needs help, then who fills in those hours? Oh, okay, you're going to take Saturday? Okay, we'll take Saturday as informal support. Are you sure? You write down their name and they agree to do informal support, because it's not a requirement also. Okay, now you have this many hours left, that we can bring an attendant caregiver. Oh no, my daughter comes over, on Sunday, we go to church together, we do this, Okay, Saturday and Sunday is covered. Are you sure you can handle it? Yes, they always do that. Okay. But there are days that sometimes she doesn't go with me or she doesn't come to see me. So it's not every Sunday. Okay, well, we'll keep those hours there just in case. But let me know if anything changes. So you're basically assessing how many hours does that member need. And then from there, you can, take out the informal support and drill it down to what actually is the services that will be paid by Access. So that's how we should be looking at it, not just saying, well, your sister's there, she can take care of you. Your brother's there, she can take care of you. We've heard that. It's not their job to do that. It's the case manager's job to go through the assessment, know where the needs are, and then everyone come to a consensus agreement to say, so-and-so will do this, and then we'll revisit it next quarter. So look at it from that perspective. When anytime there's a reduction, we will be looking for an NOA in the case file.
Thank you, Rachel. And were you able to, did you still want to talk or ask a question? Please put it in the chat. If not, we're going to move on. All right. And if you have questions, just email it to me later and I'll discuss it with you. Ann Hale, yeah, you had raised your hand.
You might need to unclick the hand at the bottom because you've had your hand up the whole time. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, very good. All right, let's move on then. Go ahead and do next and I'll update those. All right.
Yay, time for a break.
Yes.
We will go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break and meet back here.
In 15 minutes.
Yes, thank
Are
you.
we on schedule, Bandana, or are we kind of behind schedule?
No, we are behind like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you all back here in 15 minutes.
Where's the music?
Thank you, Bandana.
Wow, that went by pretty fast.
I know it did.
Yeah.
I was trying to make me a smoothie and it's like, oh, the music stopped. I better hurry up and get back.
Smoothie sounds good.
Yeah.
The good thing of having a Vitamix is you don't have to go out to Jamba Juice or anything to get you a drink that probably costs you like almost $10, you know?
Right.
Well, I have all my stuff to make a, what is that called, Rachel? I never can remember the name of it. Where we used to go.
Oh, the acai?
Yeah, acai. I love
Oh.
that. That just really just hits the spot for me.
Yep, I love that place. I still go to it. I got my granddaughters addicted to it now. The
Well,
Berry
it's a
Divine.
long way from me, so
Yeah, Berry Divine. If you're ever in Sedona, get it.
Sedona, huh?
They
Okay.
have one at Sedona. Berry
Okay.
Divine. Scottsdale, Sedona, and I believe the one on 16th Street we used to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas.
I
16th Street,
remember that
Thomas.
one. Yeah. Yummy, yummy.
Mhm.
Are we ready?
Are we ready? Let's do
It's
it.
been
think we
15
are,
minutes. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your attendance. I'm going to do a summary of the dental services for tribal ALTCS members. Next slide. So the dental services for members 21 years of age and older are in policy 310 D1. And this policy applies to the MCOs, ALTCS, EPD, DES, DDD, REBA contractors, fee-for-service programs like the American Indian Health Plan, and most importantly, we as tribal ALTCS. All the fee-for-service populations. The only thing it excludes is the Federal Emergency Services, FES. And you can refer to that if you want a good read in AMP Chapter 1100. So the 310D1 Dental Services Policy establishes requirements that are regarding the provision of medically necessary dental services for members, ALTCS members who are 21 years of age and older. These dental services, the dental services for members under 21 years are covered as specified in AMP Policy 431 and any additional medically necessary non-emergency dental services for ALTCS members 21 years of age and older are specified in AMPM 310 D2. So D1 and D2. So ALTCS members and dental benefits for all these ALTCS members. We have 2 dental benefits for our ALTCS members. As of October 1st, 2016, dental services are covered up to $1,000 per benefit year for diagnostic, therapeutic, and preventative care. The policy link is there, which is 300 310 D2. The next one is for coverage that became effective October 1st, 2017 for emergency dental services. And these services are covered up to another $1,000 per benefit year for members 21 years of age and older. And that policy is 310 D1. I also included the dental rates and codes. Reminder that reimbursement is subject to the dental fee-for-service rates and codes. Information on the rates and billing can be found at, and there's the link provided also. Next slide. So for the tribal ALTCS case manager, dental services and the case manager's responsibility for dental services are to track all dental services on the member's service plan. You can put any comments if your member goes for any kind of the either preventive dental services or the emergency dental services, go ahead and put that in the comments of your CA 165, the service plan. That's where you can just let us know, if they receive that. And if you take a look at the link on rates and codes under dental services, a lot of the preventive procedure codes are under $100, so they do not need to be put on the CA 165. Next is all providers must notify the assigned tribal case ALTCS case manager of the member's dental services. So any referrals should probably come through you so that you are aware of it. And you can just let the providers know that per policy, it is the tribal case manager's tribal ALTCS program and assigned case manager to know what is happening, because there's a dollar amount on each benefit year for the member. It is the responsibility, if a member is transitioning to another tribal contractor via PCCR, it is the responsibility of the entity transferring the member to notify the accepting entity regarding the current balance of the dental benefit. So that's important to know, because again, there's that dollar amount. And then the next thing, and I'm going to touch on will be, I've been working on an updated frequently asked questions for our tribal health plan programs and for our providers. So it goes through all the services that are covered under tribal ALTCS, including now the dental services. It also educates the case manager and the providers of how the claims are submitted, if PA is needed, and if not, all those types of things. And we will be sending that out shortly, probably by tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. So that is my presentation on touching on dental services. Again, review the policies. And I know that during COVID, there's an exception to these services, dental services, because there's not a lot of IHS or 638 dental clinics that are currently opened back up to see members face to face. So there's different protocols, different tribes have their own policy on that. So, that's just going to have to be, again, a case by case. Have any questions?
Yvonne has her hand raised and Diana has a question. So the dental service is submitted directly to Access?
Yes, Niana, it is.
Through fee for service.
If you have a dental provider that needs to get clarity or information, let us know so that we can provide, our education team can reach out to that provider to provide that additional training on how they need to submit. But the majority of our fee-for-service providers that provide dental services are aware of how they go about it. It's just that they get confused with the health plan. So they think the tribe is going to pay for the services, or who's going to pay. So that's just the only area that they would need clarity on. So you can always just give us their contact information and we'll have the education team reach out to them.
Hi, Lakeisha has a question. And it says, hi, Cheryl, thank you for the info. How would we know when members receive services? So most likely the member would let you know if they've received services. Or they may say, I have a referral for dental services. Most likely it's that communication that a case manager would have between their member. Again, educating to the member at the review assessments that's one of the responsibilities of them as a beneficiary of ALTCS services, is that they let you know, or the case manager know, what kind of things that they've been going through, any kind of new appointments, upcoming appointments they have. that would be my best guess on how, if you do not receive an official, like a referral from a dentist to get cleaning done or filling done. Thank you. Next slide.
I believe
Oops.
Cheryl Yvonne had a question. She said, can
Oh.
you define dental emergencies?
It's actually in the policy of it's all kinds of different, there's extractions, like if the member were to go in and find, there's a list in the policy. Like if the member was to go, they were to find an abscess in a tooth, that would be an emergency. A jaw break, that would be an emergency. So there's a list, and I just encourage everybody to go through that link that I provided under the dental emergency. The other announcement that I wanted to make, it's very exciting news, and Rachel touched on it earlier, is that as of July 1st, 2022, all our tribal ALTCS programs will be taking over the responsibility of ensuring that all our members are getting cost-effective services through the ALTCS program. Currently, how it stands is if you have a member from 81% up to 99%, you submit a packet to Sonny or myself, and we review those. We look at the cost effectiveness of the services, and as long as it's up to 99%, it is an approval for those services. So again, I encourage everyone to go ahead and supervisors, case managers, to go ahead and start reviewing the cost effectiveness study standard, which is in the again on the digital toolbox, and start to review that and make sure that, you know, if you have any questions, we will be able to answer those when, probably as of January 1st, 2022, we are going to start setting up some training schedule for each tribal plan. So I encourage everybody to have their specific questions ready during that time. If you have any questions for us, then we can train on those questions. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
There was another question. John L. asked, could you share or start keeping a list of dental providers who have accepted fee-for-service members so case managers can use that info when needed?
So again, that's the responsibility of each tribal program. I know, Janelle, you and I worked really hard in getting dental services for one of your members. You did a great job on that. And it was very, very time consuming to find different providers. I know that a lot of our dental providers out there, they say they do not take fee for service, or they don't have a contract, but yet they are an active access provider. So that's kind of the benefit of the new updated frequently asked questions sheet that we're going to send out, is when you have those providers that question or say they don't have a contract with tribal ALTCS, then you can send that to them, because they do not have to have a contract. They are an active access provider. They would bill for services directly to Access. So when we look for a provider, we go to Google. We at Access do not have lists of providers that we can just send out to you. We really strongly encourage each plan to network within their tribal communities, within the urban settings that are close to you, are close to the boundaries of Indian country and try to work from that. Rachel, do you have anything else to add on that one?
I was gonna say something, but I'm always talking. So, but I wanted to ask that I believe Sonny had put something in there in the chat, the provider listing. So within the IGA, I'm always going back to the IGA. Within the IGA, each tribe should be able to establish that network within within your tribal community. We don't know all the providers within your community. You either live in the community, your case managers live in the community, you know what resources are out in the community. So I would say to be proactive in establishing that network, and then you providing a list for your case manager. So that way they are aware. You can always go to the provider listing. If you know these are some of like the needs that your members have, or you've seen the need rising in a certain service type, I would recommend, and we have mentioned this before in previous ALTCS meetings, where we said start creating that list. And I know a couple of the long-term care programs have came forward in those meetings to say they've already started establishing that network. They have reached out to make that connection with providers within their area. As long as that provider is an access registered provider, and by your communication with that provider and establishing that network with them to make sure that those services could be available. This is the good thing about or actually I should say, this is the difference between a managed care organization and the contracts they have with Access, and also the IGAs and the tribal long-term cares that we work with. So on the managed care side, they actually do a contract with providers. So when they say contract, they actually go out to these providers and say, we'll pay you X amount, blah, 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 whatever the financial agreement is. And if you have an open slot for our members, this many slots we would need. So that's how they negotiate a contract with a provider. On the fee for service side, we don't have that. We can't promise any financial bump in rates. What the rates are is what is set. That information, providers already know if they're in that community. They should know, and they should be aware of what rates are out there. So the only thing I can say is go through that listing, be proactive. Don't wait till something happens. And reach out to make sure that you're establishing that network for your team when they do need that service. Your member needs a service. Thank you, Sonny, for sharing that link.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Sonny.
You're welcome.
And that concludes my presentation. And I hand it over to Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. So I am going to re-review our DME process for the Medicare and Medicaid primary custom wheelchair requests we've been receiving. We did have a process in place, but we're going back to what we had in place prior. I'm also going to be reviewing the H0018s, the T2031s, and the T2033s, which are the ELF behavioral health placements. We do have a new DME tool that'll be coming out December 31st of 2021. And just a reminder as to the secure email process we're doing for the approval letters. Next slide. Next slide. So we did do some changes to our PA claims process for the DME equipment that is covered by Medicare and third-party insurances that are in an approved setting. They aren't going to require a Medicaid PA. They're not going to need two bids. They're just going to go ahead and bill Medicare and deliver the equipment Access would be responsible for any deductibles or copays if that is something the member is eligible for. As for the DME equipment that is not covered by Medicare or third party, which usually is when a member is in a SNF, just because they're not in an approved setting, we are going to be issuing pended PAs. And those will not be lifted unless the provider is able to provide a EOB and the delivery ticket. As for, next slide, which is kind of just reflected in this slide as well. Just SNF members, they do need a pended PA, they do need an EOB and a delivery ticket. The provider will need to bill Medicare, which is where we would get the EOB. We're not able to accept any other forms, just that they did bill. Next slide. Once I do review it, I'll be issuing out a pended PA letter, which will include the PA number. If you click on the screen, Bandana, the PA letter will include the PA. It does let you know that it is pended and it is going to require an EOB reflecting a denial. The next slide is just an example of the EOB that we'll review, as well as claims will review. Next slide is an example of the delivery ticket. The providers will submit that as well. The next slide. On the provider portals, as I've mentioned before, the providers are able to see the PAs in real time. If you click on the screen, Bandana, it'll let them know that the case is approved, the effective dates for the case. If you click on the screen again, it'll also show what I'm requesting. For this case, the member has a power wheelchair, they are Medicare primary, and it is pending an EOB. The next slide. As for Medicare third parties, this is just also another slide reminding you that there are no pended PAs for these members that are in an approved setting, that is where they're living at home. Next slide. For Medicaid primary members, the DME process will be they do need 2 bids so I can compare prices. And I will review. Our first option will be a rental over purchase. Depending on the clinical review, we can determine whether or not that could be a purchase instead of a rental. The next slide. Here is just an example of what's an okay quote to submit and one that's not. We do need individual HCPCS codes and billing prices for the quotes. Next slide. As for what is prior authorization. So prior authorization, PA, is a process by which Access Division of Fee-for-Service Management determines in advance whether a service that requires prior approval will be covered. Based on the initial information received, PA may be granted provisionally as a temporary authorization pending receipt of required documentation to substantiate compliance with access criteria. PA is not a guaranteed payment. Next slide. For our PA authorization requirements, it is in AMPM 820 that does go over the process by which authorization requests are submitted with clinical documentation supporting the medical necessity for the services requested. Access covered services shall obtain PA from the Access DFSM prior authorization unit, hereafter referred to the DFSM services required authorization as specified in this policy. PA requests shall be submitted prior to providing services. I did include the link as to where you can find the policy. The next slide. It is also listed on the website for the PA requirements. This is where the providers go for any information that they would need. And it does say on there so that the providers do know that long-term care services for tribal ALTCS members are authorized by the member's ALTCS tribal case manager. PA requests must be submitted prior to providing services. The next slide. As for the 80018, the policy is listed in the AMPM 320V for behavioral health residential facilities. All criteria for admission must be met for the admission date. I am looking for the evaluation to determine behavioral health condition and diagnosis. The evaluation should be recent and not older than 1 year, done by a BHP or a BHT and co-signed by a BHP, authorizing the standardized instrument that is able to determine the appropriate level of care. I'm also looking for the treatment plan that's done by the inpatient or outpatient or the TRIBA treatment team. Included in the plan should be an intervention specifying that the birth level of care is necessary for the member as the least restrictive level of care required to treat the behavioral health condition that's identified in the evaluation. The treatment plan should not be older than 3 months from the request submission date. The next slide. For criteria for birth admission, the birth providers providing services for the fee-for-service members are required to adhere to the elements listed in the AMPM 320V Behavioral Health Residential Facility. The member should have a diagnosis for the behavioral health condition, which reflects the symptoms and behaviors necessary for the request for the residential treatment. The behavioral health condition causing the specific functional or psychosocial impairment shall be evident in the assessment by the following. Next slide. It does list the member would have to have one of these specific risks of harm within the past 3 months, and they should have suicidal aggression, self-harm, homicidal thoughts, impulsivity, with poor judgment, maladaptive physical or sexual behavior, the member's inability to remain safe within his or her environment. That's despite environmental supports. Medication side effects due to toxicity or contradictions. Next slide. And at least one of the areas of specific functional impairments, they would need to fit one of these categories also. The inability to complete developmental appropriate self-care, frequent inpatient psychiatric admissions, the inability to independently self-administer medications, necessary psychotropic medications, impairments persisting in this absence of situational stressors at delayed recovery from the present problem. Next slide. Also, for the criteria for birth admission, which is listed in the policy, a need for a 24-hour behavioral health care supervision, development adequate and effective coping skills that will allow the member to live safely in the community, and anticipated stabilization cannot be achieved in a less restrictive setting. Evidence that appropriate treatment in a less restrictive environment has not been successful or is not available, therefore wanting a higher level of care. And the member agrees to participate in treatment. Next slide. Treatment goals shall be developed in accordance with the following. For the treatment plans, the specific to the member's behavioral health conditions, they should be measurable and achievable. It cannot be met in a less restrictive environment based on the member's unique needs and tailored to the member and the family's HCDM and designated representatives. Choice are possible and support the members' improvement or sustained functioning and integration to the community. Next slide. Exclusionary criteria. Admissions to a birth shall not be used as a substitute for the following. It should not be a substitute, an alternative to detention or incarceration as means to ensure community safety in circumstances where the member is exhibiting primary conduction disorder, behavior without the presence of risk or functional impairment, a means of providing safe housing, shelter, supervisory, or permanency placement, behavioral health intervention when other less restrictive alternatives are available, and meet the member's treatment needs, including situations where the member HCDM are unwilling to participate in the less restrictive alternative or as an intervention for runaway behaviors related to a behavioral health condition. Next slide. Criteria for continued stays. Continued stays shall be assessed by the birth staff and the CFTA ART tribal ALTCS during treatment plan review and update, progress towards treatment goals, and continued display of risk and functional impairment shall also be assessed. Treatment interventions, frequency, crisis, safety planning, and targeted discharge shall be adjusted accordingly to the staff and the need for continued stay. The following criteria shall be considered when determining continued stays. The members continues to demonstrate specific risk of harm and or functional impairment as a result of a behavioral health condition. Providers and supports are not available to meet current behavioral and physical health needs at a less restrictive lower level of care. The birth request for a continued stay should be submitted to PA at least 2 weeks prior to the last approval prior authorization date of the birth stay. The next slide. Discharge readiness. The following criteria shall be considered when determining discharge and readiness. Symptoms or behavior relief is reduced as evidenced by completion of treatment plan goals. Functional capacity is improved. Essential functions such as eating or hydrating necessary to sustain life are significantly improved or is able to be cared for by a less restrictive level of care. The member can participate in needed monitoring or a caregiver is available to provide monitoring in a less restrictive level of care. The providers and supports are available to meet current behavioral and physical needs as a less restrictive level of care. Next slide. For admission, assessment, treatment, and discharge planning, birth providers rendering services to fee-for-service members shall follow the below outlined admission, assessment, treatment, and discharge planning requirements, except as provided in the subsection R9-10707A9. A behavioral health assessment for members shall be completed before treatment is initiated and within 48 hours of admission. The CFT, ART, TRIBA, Tribal ALTCS shall be included in the behavioral or development of the treatment plan within 48 hours of admission for members enrolled with a contractor, TRIBA, or ALTCS member. All birth serving TRIBA or ALTCS members shall coordinate care with the TRIBAs or Tribal ALTCS programs throughout the admission, assessment, treatment, and discharge process. The treatment plan shall connect back to the member's comprehensive service plan for members enrolled with a contractor. Next slide. For secured birth and treatment plans also aligned with the court order, the comprehensive discharge plan shall be created during the development of the initial treatment plan and shall be reviewed or updated at each review thereafter. The discharge plans shall document the following: clinical status for discharge, member, healthcare decision maker, and designated representative, and CFT, ART, TRIBA, Tribal ALTCS understands follow-up treatment, crisis, and safety plan. And coordination of care, transition. Vandana, can you go back? Coordination of care and transition planning are in process. Recollation of medications, applications for lower level of care submitted, follow-up, appointments made, identification of wraparound supports and potential providers, birth staff, and CFT ART TRIBA Tribal ALTCS shall meet to review and modify the treatment plan at least once a month. A treatment plan may be completed by a BHP or by a BHT with oversight and signature by the BRF within 24 hours. Next slide. Implementation of a system to document and report in timeliness for BHP signature and review when the treatment plan is completed by a BHT. Implementation of a process and actively engage family healthcare decision maker and designated representative in a treatment plan process as appropriate. Clinical practices as applicable to services offered and population served shall demonstrate adherence to the best practices for treatment specialized service needs, including but are not limited to cognitive intelligence disability, cognitive disability with comorbid behavioral health conditions, older adult and co-occurring disorders, substance abuse and behavioral health conditions, or comorbid physical and behavioral health conditions. Services deemed medically necessary throughout the assessment and or CFT, ART, TRIBA, Tribal ALTCS, which are not offered at the BRF, shall be documented in the service plan, and documentation shall include a description of need, identified goals, and identification of provider meeting the need. Next slide. The following services shall be made available and provided by the BRF and cannot be billed separately unless otherwise noted below. Counseling and therapy, group or individual. Group behavioral health counseling and therapy must not be billed on the same day as the BRF services unless specialized group behavioral health counseling and therapy have been identified in the service plan as a specific numbered need that cannot otherwise be met as required within the skill training and development. Individual living skills, self-care, household management, budgeting, avoidance of exploitation, safety education, and awareness. The member health care decision maker and designated representative, and CFT, ART, TRIBA, Tribal ALTCS understands follow-up treatment, crisis, and safety plan, and social communication skills, conflict and anger management, some opposite sex friendships, development of social support networks, recreation. Next slide. For the ELF birth requests, the policy is in AMPM chapter 1200 that covers the T031 and the T033 codes. Next slide. I was just going to give out some examples as to what I receive from time to time from the ELFs. In this request, it is from assisted living. They are requesting behavioral health for the dates of October through December. For the clinical notes that I receive, the next slide just shows the dates for those notes. Usually I would request the most current notes that they have, usually within 30 days prior to what's being requested. These dates are 5 months old, so these are from June. Next slide. With these cases, I just send out that I need documentation supporting the dates that you're requesting. So if you get any of these faxes, that's what I'm asking for, is behavioral notes that are most recent for the dates that you're requesting. The next slide. For my contact information that's regarding any prior authorization requests, my email and my phone number, whichever way you want to contact me, I'm okay with. Next slide. For any claims questions, I included the claims phone number and their working hours. For provider training, I did reach out to Allison. She's one of the trainers, and she said it would be best to just have the providers reach out to her. So if there's any questions, the providers can send an email to the email address and get in contact with her. There is a birth training that's coming up, so I'm going to be reaching out to those birth providers to give them that helpful information. The next slide. So for the DME tool, this is a new form that's going to be a fillable form. It should be available in December. This form will have what's usually required for the DME requests that are coming out. It is similar to the home mod request form, where the supervisors will need to sign off on the packet to ensure it is a complete packet. There are check boxes so that you can also keep track of what's in your packet to ensure that it is a complete packet. The next slide. Some current common DME request errors I receive are they're missing documentation. Usually it's missing provider quotes, missing RX, the face-to-face or the diagnoses. Hoping that the DME tool will help with ensuring and assisting you guys in being able to make sure that our PA process runs as smoothly as possible. Next slide. And this is just a reminder for the secured emails and faxes. Next slide, Vandana. So we do have a new DME process that Bandana and I are working on. It's similar to the home mod requests. The DME requests received are still going to have to be submitted through fax. And that's because they keep track of the DME requests that come in. Those requests will be reviewed by Bandana just to make sure that the RX is there, the DME provider quotes are there. So any necessary documentation, she's just going to take a look to make sure that it's there. If it's not, the packet will be returned, and then an entire new packet is going to have to be resubmitted. Once that process is completed, it will come to me and I'll review the complete DME requests. Once I receive those, I'll enter the approvals or enter the pended PAs, and Bandana will be sending out the approval letters via secured email. Next slide. Are there any questions?
There was a couple. I got to go back up and look at it.
There's a comment, Vanessa, you're awesome. We all agree.
And it says there was one that I have several providers asking for your contact information and was hesitant to provide it. Are you okay with me giving your contact information to providers?
Yeah, that isn't a problem with me. I do work closely with New Motion and a couple other providers. I've also been in contact with the birth providers. It's just a little bit more helpful to them as well as to you guys, just for them directly to come to me with any PA questions or if there is a specific form that I'm requesting. So it's a little bit easier for them to troubleshoot with me. I don't mind them contacting me directly. They can send me an email or give me a call and I'll reach back out to them.
I kind of opposed to that, not to the extreme though. The only reason why I don't really recommend that is because Vanessa is our only nurse and she covers all the tribal ALTCS members. So there could be time like with New Motion, they have taken up a lot of our time trying to resolve some of the issues that they were having. That was only because of the processes that we were having internally with them, and some of it had to, there was very little part that the tribal ALTCS program played in. So we kind of just took on that to resolve it at at our level and at the access level, just like we did with the home mod. After it became a big issue where you guys were running into a lot of barriers and, there was complex issues with providers with the home modification, the contractors that you have out there. We kind of took that over and we streamlined that process. So we are basically going through the same process now again with the DME items. So far to this point, we've received a couple of kudos to my team, Vanessa and Bandana, letting them know that once we've redid the home modification, they're seeing there's little to less delays. So that's a good thing. We're hoping we come up with the same result with the DME process. So that's going to take a while. But if this is a PA that you've authorized in your system and it's not matching what their initial request was, I would say handle it at your level, at the tribal ALTCS level, see what was submitted, what was the dollar amount submitted. If you can resolve it on your end, that's great. But if it's more at an access claims level, maybe a provider not understanding the claims process or how it's maybe they have a question on what Vanessa had authorized, if it's any different than what was submitted by you, yes, then go ahead and refer those to her and she can go ahead and follow through. But other than that, I would say give them those contact information that she provided if it has to relate to any of those areas. Because I know she says she can do it, but I know there are days that she gets a lot of requests, and DME is a never-ending story for her. It's her day-to-day. So I would just say, just be mindful of what you're sending to her. I'm not saying don't send anything to her. If there's something that you can't resolve, then just go ahead and let her know, and she can reach out to the provider. You can just shoot her an email, and then she can reach out to the provider.
We've got other comments about thanks, Vanessa, and great job, Vanessa. And yes, thank you. You are awesome.
Yes, she sure is.
She
So
is.
I just want to just kind of, I guess, close out with, because I know we're kind of we've ran over on our time. Many of these presentations and all the presentations actually, all, as you guys can see, they all reflect, and we're kind of redirecting you guys back to the policy. They're basically just working out of what is in policy. I'm always reiterating again internally within my team, what does it say in policy? Does the policy say this? Is it okay for us to do it? Where is it that it says this? If it doesn't say it, let's spell it out. So it gives more clarity for everyone to work as a team and collaborate without any issues coming up. So I do appreciate everyone's hard work and dedication in putting this together. It takes a lot of work, and our team is, we do a review, we talk about topics, we talk about what in the last quarter, what have you seen in the last quarter, what are areas that there needs to be improvement. Those are the areas that we really touch upon. So if there's an area that specifically after this meeting that you feel, hey, I need my team to really actually, I'm trying to communicate this with them and they're not getting it. So can you guys assist me to train or provide me more training on this so that I can be more confident on relaying this information to my case manager. And for the new leadership, we're always encouraging you to, if your case managers are coming to you and saying, this is how it's always been done, but when you're reading it in policy and you're reading it different or understanding it, if you need clarity, please reach out to us, because sometimes within your team, they do things different than each other. So it's always good to reach out to my team members for clarity on a policy, because at the end of the day, at the end of the year, when we do audit, really you're the leader of that team. So you have to be able to know what your team is doing, what they're reviewing. Those weekly reports are very, very important, communicating with your team and stuff. So with that being said, everything else that we have covered, you'll see that there's a lot of weight on the supervisor right now. So anybody who oversees a supervisor, has to understand the load. If you put a caseload on a supervisor, how would they have time to keep up with all of the stuff that we're presenting? So someone had mentioned about the caseload ratio. Look at the caseload ratio. It's the 96% is the state, the peak percentage. You try not to exceed that, but it is up to each tribe to decide what is a good percentage for my area, taking into consideration, maybe the travel time. Not everybody, and the travel time. Not everybody lives in one community. Also, the road condition, the weather condition. All of these things, as a leader, you should be discussing it with your tribal leadership or whoever oversees the division or the Department of Health Services, whoever it is within your community, and say, look, this is what Access sets is the caseload ratio of 96, but based on certain demographics, certain data, the numbers, this isn't feasible for us. We would like for us to have like 60, 75% as our own internal, as long as we know the case managers don't go over that level. And also those reportings are really, really important, because when you're asking for a rate increase, we present those reports to our finance team. So if you're having a lot of vacancies, but you want a rate increase, that's contradicting itself. Like, how fast are you filling those positions? Because if you feel the need for a rate is really, that you really need it, why aren't those positions being filled? So those reports we do provide to our financial team. So we let them know so far they had, all of these positions filled. Even though all positions filled, we see that they're still going above 96%, higher than the current percentage set by Access. So yes, we support they need new case managers. But if you're requesting you need a rate increase, but your caseload ratio, yes, it is showing it's high, but your positions have been vacant for months and months and months, yes, of course your rates are going to be high, because whatever it is happening on your hiring process, that's the issue. It's not really the rate. So we really have to work things behind the scene and say, what are they submitting to you? How do these reports, how important are they? So we'll look back at the last quarter to almost, sometimes within the whole year, how many times was this position vacant? Which, because of a vacant position, somebody else's caseload is going to be high. So internally, as a program, your leadership really needs to look at those and consider, hey, we need to get these positions filled, and it's a priority and it's a need for our tribal community, our elders, our physically disabled. So those are some ways that we look at it from that perspective. So everything, like I said, that we shared with you, there's a policy link to it. So please make sure that you look at it, take time to review them. These slides will be available. You can chop it up if you want and take bits and pieces of it and share it with who you need to, or maybe even make your own presentation. Or you can pull it from the digital toolbox and train your staff on it individually or as a group. So I hope all of this helped. Thank you very much for participating. We all appreciate you guys and the work that you do every single day. Thank you. Is there anybody else from my team that wanted to share something, or we can just close now because we're over 18 minutes? Some people are probably hungry.
I'm okay with closing. I don't have anything else to add.
Me too, Kevin. I'm good. Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Have a great
Halloween.
day.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, happy Halloween.
Bandana, can you stay on here? Because I want to see if we can capture these comments.
Okay.
Are you able to copy it and paste it onto a Word document? Because I know it disappears once you log off.
Yes.
Okay, as long as you can get that done, that way we can go back through maybe at our team meeting and discuss it. If there was any outstanding questions, we can go ahead and cover it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Bandana. Great
You're
job.
welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Chinley, ALTCS, you can go ahead and disconnect Patsy and Stephanie and somebody else from up north. Bandana, are you able to disconnect people on your side? Well, it's like she disconnected.
Throw it out. We just, for DDD, we haven't, we do with the other one, we just toss them. It doesn't even say who faxed it. 3 or 4.